Good evening, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of Talks with V. This series is all on safety. But before we get too far into the show, if you have not already subscribed to our channel and you're looking at this from another platform or you're on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to at V Bailey Network. And also follow us on Instagram and on both channels, Talks with V, as well as the Safest Place book. Okay. All right. We want to go ahead and adopt you into the family. So make sure that you subscribe and share, share, share. Well, tonight our topic is, can't we all be safe? And I know you're probably thinking like, okay, what is it about? Well, I thought that this was a very important conversation because I know that typically when we hear the conversation about safety, it's usually centered around women or little girls or children, even sometimes. So I wanted to dive into this conversation because I do think that we all deserve to be safe and we all want to have safety, but are we all getting safety? And so since the conversation is typically had with women, I wanted to hear, perspective from, a male. I want to hear the men's perspective in general. But tonight I have a very special guest who is a great friend of mine. Has been in my life for quite some time. Yeah. And, for those of you who follow me, probably see me do a little birthday shout out to him because he has just been an amazing friend to me and also someone that I feel safe and appreciate that I'm able to receive that. So, of course, it's important to me to know, does he have that safety? Has he always felt safe? I want to hear his perspective because, in life, it's give and take. And so sometimes we don't concern ourselves with the things that men go through. And, but it's important because we impact each other. So
sure.
Without further ado, I'd love to introduce my friend, Mr. Flembrick Wright. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much. It is an honor and a pleasure to be on your show once again. So thank you for having me. It means a lot.
Yes. And for those of you who don't know, he's been on. We had him on for, I think, two different shows, two different times before this one. So, three's a charm. But we have great conversations, and so we're bringing it to the screen. We're streaming it, So, okay, so Flembrick, let's get into it. Let's
dive in.
Yes, and we're just this is a conversation, y'all. So we're just gonna be raw. So what do you think about that? What I mentioned about the conversation surrounding safety and we're not really hearing the male's perspective when it pertains to that. And so I'm curious, are there areas of your life that you have not felt safe, as a man, maybe purely because you're a man, right? And so that gets neglected, that concern.
Sure.
Yeah,
most definitely. Not only am I a man, but I'm a Black man.
Yeah,
and so with all of that comes with a lack of a lot of safety in a lot of areas. And so as I think about some things that have happened in my life, I definitely could have been safer or had some more provision or some safety measures around me, but I didn't. And a lot of that kind of came from different areas of my life. Sometimes it came from, and I'm talking about the lack of safety first.
Yeah.
So the lack of safety kind of came from things like not having safety in my family, in my friendships, in my intimate relationships, sometimes not even in school, and even at church did I not have safety in those areas. And so for Black men, we're kind of taught, Don't let them see you sweat. Don't let them see you cry. Get out there, provide for your family, do all of these types of things. But in the same token, where is the safe space for us to go when we need nurturing, when we need counseling, when we need to let out our expressions and our emotions? Where do we go for that? And it's really hard to try to find those spaces for Black men.
Yeah. Well, you said a lot, and I can agree with you, because, when I look at it on my side, it's just like, well, if I can experience that, why wouldn't a man experience that? He was a boy once, like I was a girl, once, and now we're adults. And I think about how a lot of times there are things that were neglected when we were children, and not just because of our gender, but even as it pertains to the need, right? When you think about the gender, I think sometimes you can we can assume like, oh, he doesn't need that because he's a boy, or she doesn't need that because she's a girl. But what if that's just the way that you are wired? What if you're a young little boy who likes to cook, right? Yeah. Or what if you're a little boy and when you grow up, you're going to be like a famous designer? Like that is something that you just have a natural talent. Right. If we just assume because of gender, roles, are we doing a disservice, to those children? And is that something that you may grow up and have a little bit of resentment towards the people who were your care providers, right? Because they didn't see you fully, right? And then we go out into the world and people don't really see you like that, either. So it is that responsibility for that to happen early on. And of course, when we become adults, we have the ability, especially in our day, where we have access to so many resources, right? So I think about that, like that there's so much, I guess, assumptions that are made that you kind of, it gets overlooked, those needs get overlooked. So I know you had mentioned, what were you going to say something there?
No. I was going to say, in addition to being overlooked, it's also dangerous in so many ways, especially as you were thinking about boys versus little girls and things like that. The parenting of young children, sometimes it can be dangerous to just kind of always assume, as you were saying, my little boy does not need this, my little girl does not need that. But have you really tapped in to understand what that child really needs? And so sometimes it's absolutely dangerous to assume that this child does not need certain things because of their gender.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like their purpose, and just being intentional about that. But I get it. Like, I'm not a parent, but I could kind of assume like you don't always have it all figured out, right? Because especially if you only have like one child, or just when you got started, maybe you just had your kids back to back. It's like you were never a parent before. So you don't have it all like figured out, but you still got to get it done, right? So And so you mentioned, I jotted it down here, you mentioned family, first. So can you tell us a little bit more about like the lack of safety within the family?
Oh man. Yeah, for sure. So just growing up as a young boy in Waco, Texas, I lived with my great aunt who took on the role as my grandmother. She raised me. She taught me everything about life, which is how to cook, how to clean, how to make sure that you're presentable in public, just things like that. Go out and be a respectable person, And then, of course, I was also raised by my mother. But as I continued to live, I realized that she wasn't always there as much as she could have been. But anyway, I get a lot of the way that I am from my great aunt. And so I cherish all those things. But when I think about the lack of safety in areas, both my mother and my great aunt died when I was very young. And so from that aspect, things just changed for me like overnight. You have two deaths that are absolutely close to you. And that's all you've known all of your life. And then all of a sudden they're just wiped away like a very fast vapor. And so I was just like, man, my life is about to be different. And it was. It became a nightmare overnight. And so there were things that I wish that I could have gotten from my family during that time that I just absolutely did not get. One of those things was allow me to grieve. I did not have time to grieve. I wasn't allowed time to cry. I do remember one specific instance where I was crying and a cousin walked in, and then she went back and she told her mom, like, Flem is in there crying. And I mean, rightfully so. If it were me and I was taking care of somebody and they were crying, it's not for me to go in there and say, well, what you crying for? What's wrong?
Right. It's like, what is happening so we can figure out how to stop it. Like, tell me what the problem is.
Based on what has just happened in my life, that shouldn't have even been a question, right? But it was.
This is just after, then,
extremely like months after. And so I wish I would have had time to grieve properly. I wish I would have also had time to talk to someone outside of my family. A counselor or somebody. I do remember trying to go to school to talk to someone, and it was also recommended that I talk to a therapist, but my family wasn't going for that. So again, that lack of safety, kind of, it really started to kind of plant these seeds of discord in other areas of my life. But just back to the family aspect, those are a few things that I wish that I could have gotten during that time in my life, and I just did not get that. And so, and to just be quite honest, I can't say that it was my family that did not do it. It could have been a whole list of things going on with them. They could have just absolutely been ill-equipped to deal with that type of thing. So how do you comfort a young man who's just lost essentially both parents? How do you do that? If you've never had to be equipped with anything like that before, how do you help him deal with that? And so I'm not going to just lay it all on the line and just be like, well, they did this to me, even though I did feel like that for a very long time. And I wasn't safe in a lot of situations when it came to my family, but my family was there. I can say that they were there, but in terms of absolute safety, I was not safe.
Well, and that is why, like, I'm having this conversation and this topic, the book, all of it is because of the different types of safety, right? And when we think about safety, our minds do go to physical. A lot of times our minds go to physical, and I think maybe it's because this is a man's world, as they say, right? And men are more physical, but it's so interesting because there's two sides, right? You got to factor women into the equation, and then you also have to factor that we have a little of both, of these traits, right? That we share, and we can't shut out, one of them or shut out all of them and only see one side of things, because it gives us very narrow-minded, right? And so when we, talk about safety and we only focus on the physical, we're blocking out all the different types of safety, right? And if we're blocking that out and we don't see that, we can't see when there's something wrong, when there's, something missing, we can't see the problem. So if we can't see the problem, we can't fix the problem. And so I think that, it is hard to understand that when everyone, around has such limited tools, in the toolbox, right? And so, I get where you're coming from with the family, because a lot of times we don't realize that neglect is, dangerous, right? Because there are needs there, right? And if they're being neglected, what does that mean? Are we neglecting care? Are we neglecting, are you not feeding them? Like, are you not, checking in and making sure that they're learning what they need to learn in school? You know, there's a lot of things that can impact you that put you in danger if you're neglected, right? Or if you're abandoned, right? And so we have to talk about that, or emotional safety, right? What's happening there? If no one is allowing you to express yourself, what's happening in the inside? Are you internalizing that? Are you making up your own, what you think, you know, with your little underdeveloped, you know, mind? You're a child, right? So yeah, I totally get that. And I mean, I come from a big family, so I was like the youngest girl for a long time. So it was either I couldn't go because I was too young or do certain things, or they didn't want me around because they're like, you're messing it up. I want to be able to do this. You're around, I can't do it, you know, or just annoyance, you know, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, you can get left out. And I think a lot of times we focus on the physical safety. And if you're physically safe, you're being fed, it's just like, what's the problem? Especially if you have parents who are just working hard, you know, like, and they're trying to make ends meet, and then just give their children something that they didn't have. Absolutely. It can be missed with multiple children for sure. And definitely even with one, you know?
And I mean, that's a great point, because I was my mother's only child, but my dad had several children. He had already had children before before anything. When he started dating my mom, he had already had children my mom's age at that time.
Oh, okay.
So it was one of those. But you know, just going back to family just a little bit, is the fact of now I had just gone through the death of my mother after losing my great aunt, who I was raised by. But I remember reaching out. I found a number to my father, who lived in Dallas at the time. And I reached out to him. And for some reason, I felt like he was excited to talk to me, because when he found out it was me on the phone, there was so much excitement when he jumped on the phone. Hey, baby boy, how you doing? And I was just like, not good. I said, my mom just died. I'm scared. I'm alone. And I don't know what to do. And he says, you know what? I'm coming for you. I'll be there. I'm coming to get you. And I believed him. And I never spoke to him again. He never showed up. He didn't call me again. And I didn't see him. And so those are areas in my life where, when I think about the lack of safety, I was not protected during that time. I mean, I still had one living biological parent, and he still didn't show. He did not show up for me. And so I think about that not only as just a man, a Black man, but just as a child. You know, why would you do this? You know, regardless of gender. But that's exactly what happened to me. And so I just think about those things. And so those are some areas in which I felt like I needed the most safety. I needed someone to provide some provision and some safety around my life during that time, and I just didn't get it at all.
Yeah. Wow. I'm so sorry, you know, to hear that. I mean, even now, and just knowing you for this amount of time, it makes me mad, you know, but he's not here. So I can't go off on him, you know. But you know, I am. I'm protective, just like you.
You're absolutely protective. Yeah. But I mean, the things about all of that has kind of shaped me and kind of built my character a lot. And so, and so by the grace of God, I've learned from those things. So
yeah. So in talking about that, I mean, like you know, you shared a lot there. I'm just thinking about the fact of experiencing death, right, at this early age. Some people, they don't experience death in their childhood or until they're like way into adulthood. And to experience that at an early age, and in a way, it's not like they abandoned you, they died, right? And so to be able to understand that, like, who explains that, you know, at that age in the best way, you know, for a child to understand it, right? And the fact that you said that you didn't get therapy, that would have been perfect, right? Is someone who is familiar with this, and then they can teach you and give you some of the tools to help you be able to process it. So there's not something that's kind of stunting you, right? We don't look at that or think about that because we're always looking at the exterior of things and don't realize what's going on. Like, is he okay? Like, is he going to be okay? Or we just assume he will. He'll just shake it off.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I had someone to tell me, "Oh, you look great. You look fine. You're behaving normally." And I'm just like, "How would you know? You have not asked me how I felt at all since this has happened to me. But I look great. I look like I'm doing all right."
Wow. Yeah. It's crazy, but it's just ignorance, right? And it's just a lot of people are lacking, right? There's a lot of lack in their lives, and so they don't really know how to be a support, and it's sad. It's sad for all of us, right? Because we're impacted by that, and those. You don't know what you need until you need it. And,
that's right.
That's not the time you want to find out that you have a lot of people around who are unskilled and unprepared, right?
I'm telling you,
for these type of things, just to be there, at the very least.
That's right.
So, let's move along to friendship, right? And I do want to talk about relationships because I think that that's always the hot topic, and I'm so tired of the conversation. But at the end of the day, because we do relationships until we die, different types of relationships, it's always going to be, I guess, relevant. But let's talk about this type of relationship, friendships. So I know you mentioned that about not feeling safe in your friendships. What way?
Yeah, in many ways, but
where to start?
Right. But I will say I've had some friendships with some people where, and by the grace of God, I realized some friendships are seasonal. They're not every friendship is not lifelong. And I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. But in some friendships, I have been used, of course. I've also been in friendships where people have envied me for nothing other than my skin color. I had a good friend of mine at the time who I thought we were friends, and then I overheard a conversation saying people only like Flem because he's light skinned. If he was dark skinned, they wouldn't like him so much. Same friend, he's black, I'm black, right? But you get with these people and you decide to like tear me down by talking about my skin color.
Wow.
I can't change that. There's nothing I can do about those things. And so, but then this group of other people that I was not friends with, but if I wanted to be friends with them, he's already sown that bad seed into the group.
Absolutely. I get that. And I'm sorry. I'm over here smiling because all I'm thinking is looking like a Puerto Rican. A Puerto Rican.
Rican.
Okay. That's all I'm hearing. So I'm like, okay, it probably looks crazy. I'm over here smiling, but that is like what I'm hearing in my head. I'm having my moments. But I get you. Like, the color, the complexion, the colorism in our community is it's wild.
It's horrible. Wild, absolutely horrible. And outside of that friendship, I've been in friendships with people who are just like, what can you do for me? Can you come pick me up? You got a car. I don't have a car. Can you come take me somewhere? Can you also come pick me up? Can you do all these types of things? And the thing about me, I'm a server. So I'm always trying to provide a service to somebody else. And so I wouldn't always see it right off the bat, like somebody's using me for something until later, until I'm fed up. And I'm just like, these folks been using me this whole entire time. But I just didn't recognize that. And these were friends, you know what I'm saying? Friends. And so I've also had some friendships that were when I was down and out. I was homeless for a little while, which I get it though, right? So I was homeless, and so I was looking for a place to stay. And friends were just like, this one particular friend was just like, no, you can't come over here at all. You just can't come. And I mean, listen here, I've grown from there, and so I can kind of understand. Like, listen, I don't, from their point of view, how I see it and think about it now is maybe he was just like, I don't need that extra drama right now. I can barely make it, so I really can't take you on. He did not articulate it like that. It seemed as though he was just like, no, I can't do it. I could care less.
Right.
But now that I'm alive and well and I've lived a little while, I can kind of be like, okay, well, maybe it wasn't just that. Maybe it was just based on the fact that he just was not equipped to deal with someone extra. And I can get that.
Right.
Now. But I did need a friend to kind of help me out during those times. But hey, that's what happens. So again, some friends are not lifelong. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
You get what you get out of certain friendships very early on, and then that's it. That's all you're supposed to get. It's like a lesson learned.
Right. Exactly. And I think that when we learn that, it makes it easier, and we can appreciate people for what they can offer, what the exchange is supposed to be. Maybe it's meant for you to pour into them, and maybe they don't pour back into you. And then like I said, like you were saying, it's not a lifelong, relationship. And then sometimes it is, a lifelong relationship where in different ways they're pouring into you. You just don't realize it, especially when we don't understand the different ways people, are able to pour into us by teaching you something, a life lesson. And so, but I wanted to talk about that because when you explain, these experiences with these friendships and having some of these experiences that were not so great, it's just so amazing about the work that you do. So I don't want us to go too far without talking about that. So if you can share with us, I know, but everyone else, what is it that you do you're an advocate, as well. So I want you to share a little bit more about that. And then I'm also going to make sure that I get your book before we end, also. So go ahead and tell us what it is that you do.
Yeah, for sure. I've been working in the field of HIV prevention, education, and treatment for about going on 7 years now. And so absolutely great work. Right now, I oversee a small team of individuals who make sure. So I work in a clinic, and so individuals who come in, they're coming in for STI treatment or HIV treatment. And so some of those individuals cannot afford the medication. And so when we're talking about PrEP medication, that's over $1,000 a month. We're talking about HIV medication that's over $1,000 per month. These people cannot afford that. And so what my team does, they make sure that this is a way to overcome all those barriers, right? We don't want you to have to worry about financial barriers. So we make sure that we link them up with a program, with a medication assistance program that can help them to get that medication at zero cost. And in addition to that, our team also works with another program that helps people to get marketplace insurance, and we absolutely pay for it. So it's zero cost to the individual that's coming in for it, and we pay the premium every month. They come in, they get their medications through us, and they can also see their primary care outside of our facility at zero cost, or depending on their copays and things like that. Right. But we definitely try to make sure that if you're coming in for PrEP or HIV medication, that your medication is zero cost to you. And so we do that every day, day in and day out. And we're absolutely proud, and we love to do what we do.
Yay. I love that. I love it. Yes. And I know you got your master's in psychology as well, right?
I do.
That's awesome.
I'm currently on my way. That's right.
Yeah.
Good about that.
It's going to be Dr. Flembrick Wright. You better let somebody know.
I'm telling you. Yes, I'm on my way. I am currently pursuing that. Yeah.
That's so good, because a lot of times you will find people who have had, like traumatic, like upbringings that and haven't experienced, this wonderful treatment or the support, that I believe people really need. But those same people turn around and they take that pain, they take the adversity, they take all the lessons learned, and they serve, they go out and serve the community. And it's it's so beautiful because that's not what you think's going to happen, right? You think that people who come up a certain kind of way, that's an excuse for them to be terrors, right? Oh, I get it. They didn't go through this. They didn't have a daddy. They didn't this, whatever. And we do make these excuses, not saying that it doesn't impact you, because absolutely it does, but we're all built different. So, you don't know what that person's going to be made of until, they go through it and come out on the other side or don't, Right. So I think that that's so amazing, from the things that I know and the things that you shared here today, just how you turned it around, and even outside of that, you pour into, brothers, and you're a minister of music, and, so that's just wonderful. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Very proud. Now, speaking of that, we're going to talk about school and church, but give me just 1 minute. I just want to make sure I have the book close by. Okay. Just a minute. Okay. I'm back. So, yes, let's go ahead and talk about the next thing on our list. So you mentioned school and not feeling safe at school and church. But, we can talk about that if that's something that you want to elaborate on, or if you've already kind of covered it, then we can move into feeling safe in relationships, because, you're attractive black man, in shape. He be in the gym, y'all, working on his fitness, right? Don't behave. No, but let's talk about that, because I wonder, a lot of times, obviously y'all hear us complaining about the things that we experience. And I wonder, as a woman, I want to be safe in my relationships, right? In the relationship that I have with a man. Obviously, you grow up learning that men protect and they provide and all these different things. So as a woman, the protection, it goes beyond physically, being safe with you. It's just to me, I think that we all kind of automatically assume a man's around. I, of course, should be safe, physically, right? And a lot of you guys, men are taught that, for the most part. But that's not something, it's okay, beyond that, I want to be safe with my emotions. So if I'm going through something that hurts me, or I'm miserable at my job, or just whatever it is, if you're my man, I want to be able to come to you and just tell you these things. And you tell me, baby, it's going to be okay. With the deep voice, it's going to be okay. And then I can just put my head in your chest, and I believe you. You might be wrong, but I believe you anyway, right? So those are the kind of things, financial safety, right? If I'm putting my trust in you and I get pregnant with your child, right? Our child, I want to know that, I don't want to say nothing too crazy, but I want to know that I did not put my life in the hands of someone who is not going to be there and be the support, financially when I have to stay off of work, right? For a certain period of time. I want to know that I don't have to drop my baby today and then go to work tomorrow because I made a poor choice, or you sold me a lie, right? And obviously there's some responsibility there of a person, that before you do that, you can cut with someone, but that's something that is important, when they give you the list of things that are most important to men and women, the lists are different, but on the top of a woman's list is security, right? And security is financially, physically, it's all the levels that you can be safe, right? Spiritual, all that. So there's that coming from the female's perspective. But for the men, what areas do you need to be safe in? Have you thought about it? And as it pertains to the relationship. And do you get it? Like, what are those things, and do you receive those things?
Wow. I want to go back to something that you said earlier when you said men are taught like to be a provider and all those types of things. I believe that men are told that they need to do those things. Teaching is something totally different. You teach me how to do those things, I will probably recreate that and start to do that and act those things out. But if you tell me, then that's up to me. That's up for your interpretation, actually. Like, you told me to go out here and be a man, and I'm being the best man I know how. You didn't give me any tools. I don't have any tools to be this man that you told me to go out here and be. And so when it comes to relationships for me, I've had some relationships that were absolutely great, but clearly they didn't work out. So because I'm not with them. But I will tell you that the lack of safety in some of those relationships could have also very well just been on me. Number one, poor choice of seeking out this partner that I'm just like, oh man, I gotta have them because they look good. And so they look good, but the trash is on the inside because we're both broken, right? And so not having a good safe space to be vulnerable in my relationship to say, you know what, I'm not having a good day. And I really don't want to talk to you right now, without the other person saying, well, it's all about me. Why you don't want to talk to me? What did I do? It's just like, you didn't do anything. I just don't want to talk right now. Are you okay? I cannot be broken right now in this moment because now I have to cater to you. I want you to feel better in this moment. And not one time did either one of us make me feel better in this moment. And so, and it's really difficult. I've really heard a lot of women. I've seen a lot of shows and heard perspectives from females a lot of times talking about, I need the strong man to come and provide for me. Some men take on women with multiple children and they're not even theirs. You know what I'm saying? But then there's still that expectation to come in and be the strong individual. If I were him, that person that's coming in to take care and raise other children that are not mine, then the expectation needs to be coming from me, not from you, not solely, right? And so having a safe space to say, you know what, I lost my job today. Instead of coming home in fear and not saying that, but just rushing out there to go work at McDonald's so that you don't know that I don't have no money. You know what I'm saying? Or coming home, you know, the lack of support by saying, you know what, I lost my job. I need help with strategy. You know, I don't need to come home and you tell me, well, what did you do? What was the reason why you got fired? It could be a whole bunch of reasons why I got fired, but for you, my partner, the person that I'm loving in the moment, help me with strategy, because clearly I don't have one. So I'm looking for the next move.
And then that encouragement too.
And so in addition to those things, it's like, even, man, I've been in some very unhealthy relationships where I've realized that the person did not love me at all. They were just tolerating me for a long time. And it's absolutely unfortunate. But again, I take accountability too, because again, just making the wrong choices of individuals that I'm bringing home and sleeping with, right? And so as a Black man, I have fallen into some situations where I would have a one-night stand and tell the person that I'm sleeping with, hey, tell me that you love me. Tell me right now that you love me, in the midst of all of that. Like, where does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, but it makes it makes me feel good in the moment. And I can guarantee you that after they tell me that they love me and the whole act is done, we go our separate ways. Absolutely go our separate ways, because I got exactly what I needed. You got what you needed, but did that help me in the long run? It did not. And so some of these relationships, it's not good from the very beginning.
And that's so
just blame them. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead.
But that's so interesting too, that you say that with like, you know, tell me that you love me, right? And so many times you hear that men don't want love, they want respect. Women want love, right? And to me, you just get, I just know when I hear that, I'm like, you just haven't lived long enough. You don't understand that we want both, because women want respect, as well, so I'm sure men want to be loved. They don't want to wake up, at first they might enjoy having the fine thing, big booty with a, nice smile, all that, on their arm. But eventually, they're going to want you to not, spin them out of a house and home, and know that you really are there, So what do you share with us a little bit more about, why were you saying that? Like, what made you feel like telling this person, like, tell me you love me, when you're already getting
some good.
The not.
If I'm already getting good, but see, that's where you have to separate the real emotion from the physical. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like we're making the bed rock, but ultimately we're not self-sustaining after this. There is nothing else that you can provide for me. And why would I have someone to tell me that they love me during sex and they don't love me at all, and I don't love them? Is because of the lack of love that I had received early on. So for a long time, I was looking for love, and we hear it all the time. I was looking for love in all the wrong places and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's so true. It's absolutely a true thing. It's not a myth. You are, not you, but we as individuals who are still broken in those areas, we go through life saying, fill the void now. I don't have to. Tomorrow is going to come. It's going to be okay. I need this void filled today. Fill it now and tell me that you love me right now. I don't care if you don't lie to me tonight, And so when I think about those things, it just devastates me now that I'm at the age where I am right now, because I still have moments where I'm just like, if only they would have loved me and saw the great man that I am. The great man that could have been a great provider, but I was not. I was absolutely ill-equipped during those times. I was young. It didn't allow me the time to grow. Now that I am maturing and have a lot more wisdom, if only you would have stuck around to see those things. Sometimes that grieves me, but then I'm also at a place where I'm just like, oh well, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it's you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a blessing, honestly. And as my friend, she says, you'll thank God when it's time, when you get into that relationship you're supposed to be, you will thank God for unanswered prayers, because, we think, oh, this is best for me. Oh God, I remember hearing some guy voice, oh God, if you give me her, I promise I won't mess it up, and it's just like, you just don't know what you over there praying for. And
it's also interesting because what I'm saying seems like it would be coming from a female. It's more of a feminine conversation, right?
But it's not.
But exactly, because we don't always have the opportunities to be this broken and vulnerable out in public, to say, you know what, I really mess up things up in relationships, and I was looking for all of the wrong things, and even in the moment of lusting, I'm just like, I just need to get this lust out of my system right now. And so I also feel like as men, as Black men who have not had fathers in the household, the first time that you receive someone touching your body, making you feel good in some type of way, you climaxing with someone else, you have this attachment, regardless. This is, in my opinion, very gender neutral. Someone has never touched you before, touches you, opens and awakens you to the fullest. And then you're just like, oh, we're in a relationship now. And they're just like, no, we're not. With you.
Right. Well, because you're missing it from both sides. And, some people don't understand that, because, like, obviously your parental relationship is not sexual, but there's still an intimacy. Right.
Absolutely.
And like Dr. Umar has said this before, he's just like, boys have a love affair with their fathers, right? There's this whole thing. We're playing ball together. Dad, look at me. Like, you're looking at your dad. Watch this. You're looking at your dad like, like, I want to be him, like, and that's why you see kids when they're at that young age. And I've seen it one time with a guy I was dating, and seen his little cousin. And this gave me a little wake-up call about selection, right? And I was around seeing him grow, because we were dating, me and this guy were dating for about 3 years. Yeah. And one day I just seen his little cousin standing, leaning back, scratching his head, doing his face a certain way. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
Looking at you?
He was 4 years old. He had soaked his daddy up, like soaked his dad up. And I was just like, and then I seen it again when I was at this restaurant. And I seen this girl, real, cutesy and stuff like that, professional looking like me. And then I seen this little gangster baby walk in behind her. And I'm just like, is that a little thug baby? And then his daddy comes in looking like the adult version. And I was just like, oh my gosh, it is apparent. This was in like a short window, like probably within a week of each other. So I was just like, it is so important. You have to literally pick your partner in a way that this little being that you will love the most can emulate them, and you will be proud, that they do. Right. And I wasn't thinking about that before, because of course, when you're young, you're thinking about what you're attracted to. You're like, he looks good, whatever, like it's alive. And you're not thinking about, I can fall in love with this person and then have a little gangster baby. No, you're not thinking about it. Or they're going to pick up these ways because that child is a part of both of you. So that it's very interesting. But so as he said, they have a love affair. Dr. Omar say they have a love affair with their fathers. And just because the father is not there or the mother is not there and they abandon that child doesn't take that desire away. That's why predators are able to do what they do.
That's right.
Because of that
I was just about to say that. It makes grooming so much easier. For someone to come in and prey upon a child, or matter of fact, not even a child anymore, an adult.
Because the little child is still there. You're stuck.
You're a grown
in that
exactly. Yeah. And so that's the reason why it's super important to get all of the development, the developmental time that you can get with your parents while you have that opportunity, and also to discern healthy relationships. Being taught and given those tools early on, because then you can be able to have healthier relationships when you're older. That's why some people be like, little girls are just like, I want a man that's just like my daddy.
Right.
Or that's just like, I need a girl that's just like my mama. It's just like,
look in
my mama. Right. But in respect of, like, do you respect your mama? Do you respect your dad? The things that they instill in you, those small things, you might want those things in a partner, but you don't want them to be just like your mama.
Well, right. I think you're seeing the joy. You're seeing the joyful moments. You're, like you think about these things when you're a kid, and it sticks with you. Like my mother's cooking, my grandmother's cooking, or, just remembering like my grandmother, would be up before everybody and just being there singing and cooking stuff from scratch. And it's the smell and then the sound of her voice, and just knowing that, you're going to catch her either cooking, praying, but she's going to be praising the Lord all day. But that's what right? And so you may grow up and be like, oh, well, like, I definitely want that to continue. I want to be that kind of person. Like, there's things that, I see my mother do, and I'm like, I want to do that. Like, I want to be that way, like with my kids. I want to have that skill, or whatever it is. You take those good things. So if you grow up with that, of course, or if you've seen your dad do certain things for your mom, and you're just like, I want to love like theirs. I want a man who treats like that. It teaches you. But if on the other end, if you don't see it, you may desire that thing that you've seen because that's what you grew up with, right?
You make it up as you go along in most cases. And again, as I said earlier, it just goes back to the fact that having that desire, as we both just been talking about, having the desire to have relationships like that, it's important that we get some things, learn some lessons earlier on before we start dating people. And that's just how I feel about that. I just didn't, no one taught me how to love someone else. No one taught me about, true love. We had sex ed in school. We talked about sex, but we're not talking about, no one talked about love though. What's going to happen with love? Because love has made me go and break someone's window out when I'm angry, because they hurt me. They left me and we were in love. So no one taught me about that. They taught me about the sex. And because we had sex, you can therefore have a baby, but it doesn't tell you that could be a crime of passion.
All the emotions and
all of the emotions that go along with having sex and being in relationships,
Right. Yeah. There's a lot that's involved, and you have to know that those deficiencies, if you're deficient in any area, that craving that you have, it's just like, what is that? My strange addiction. There are crazy things that you will crave when you are deficient in an area.
Right.
And just like the strange addiction, it's going to be like, wait, what? You're eating the inside of a couch. You're eating dirt. Like, you're doing all these things. It's same thing with not having love or not having that support. You're going to see a person do some crazy things because the body is going to get what it needs. It's going to do it, and it doesn't care how crazy you look. It's the whole agenda, whole purpose is to keep you alive, to keep keep you just in general, to make sure that you're getting what it is that you need, right? So, that's so good. So I know we're running a little low on time. I did want you to talk about so you shared church, but also I know that you have an intimate relationship with God. And so if you can kind of touch on that, even though you experienced the hurt in church, how that turned around, or you can share that experience first.
Yeah, for sure. When I think about church, just early on, I've been in church forever. Forever. And I played for a lot of churches. I've been minister of music at several churches. And so I've had a lot of experiences in church. But growing up, I didn't get the protection that I needed while I was going through things with my family. I didn't get anyone from church saying, hey, we're here to support you. How can we help you? And no one stepped up to do those things for me. And I was still active in the church. And Waco is a small community of people. So, people in my church, everyone knew. They might have not known everything that was going on, but they knew certain things. And so if they knew that I was homeless and had run away and all those types of things, no one stopped to talk to me about that. No one said, hey, can we help you or any way at all? No one did that. And so that was an area in which I felt absolutely alone. And I didn't get any sympathy from that. But I will tell you, God is so good. Absolutely, God is good. Because look at me when I think about my life and where I've come from. Not to just give you a full testimony. But I will say that even though I had been in church for so long, my trauma was keeping me from being saved, like absolutely having an encounter with Christ. And I didn't actually have an encounter with Christ until I was in my 30s. Right? You're thinking about a person that's been in church forever, and you would think that they had always had an encounter with Christ and just really went by his teaching. No, that wasn't me. I was just participating in something that was familiar. And so as I think of those things, I had an encounter with Christ, and he changed everything about what I knew about life, which is he allowed me to realize that I was not the best communicator. I was having relationships. I was manifesting things into my life because I did not know how to articulate or to express things that were not good for me. So I allowed things that were bad for me to still take place and to sow seed and like set up shop in my life without putting a stop to it. And so once he came to me and said, hey, you need to learn how to communicate better, because not only are you suffering, but your friendships are suffering. People who think that they know you, they're suffering because they want to love you, but you're not letting them in.
They can't get in.
They can't get in. And so once I learned that, after having that encounter with Christ, I immediately got on the phone and I started calling the people who were closest to me, and I started letting them know. Before as soon as they jumped on the phone, I just went right into my spiel, which is, I just called you to tell you, hey, man, I love you, and I want to apologize for giving you the representation of somebody that you don't know. And then I began to talk to them about some areas in my life in which I wasn't the best friend to them. And I needed a best friend from them, but I wasn't a best friend to them. And so I was able to heal from those moments. And people started to love me differently based off of the new organic person that I was showing them. And so not just in my friendships, but even at work, my relationships with my bosses and my coworkers and all those types of things, they changed overnight, because it was almost like I stopped taking crap from people. I stopped listening to just what everyone has to say. It's like, listen, I need to be respected for the person that I am and not be And so having an encounter changed everything about that. And so, yes, I absolutely love God. I love Christ, and he has absolutely changed my life. And so I'm happy about those things.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Amen. So good. And it's so true. You know, I say that too, because I've been in church my whole life, and I think, we talked about this too. It's just that fact of finally having that moment, that full experience where it's just like, okay, I know you. Like we have a relationship. I don't just go to church, and I always desired that to get closer, because I seen it, in certain people, my mom, like my grandmother, especially, and, different people in my life over time. And I'm just like, how did they get that? Like, what's the next step? Like, what happens, like, is it coming or what's going on? But sometimes it's just when you're ready to really open yourself fully, to allow God to kind of penetrate your soul and get on up in there so that you can really live this life, and start living in your purpose and getting to know God more, so you can really, as you get to know God more, you start to understand yourself and what you were created to be. So I think that's so beautiful. We've got 2 minutes, well, a little less than 2 minutes. I wanted to show his book because he is also an author. If you can see, hold on. And there we go. Well, anywho, you see a little bit of it. We'll definitely post it. It's titled Complicated But Worth It, a self-help guide to enjoying the messiness of life.
That's right.
#1 bestseller 2024, Mr. Flembrick Wright.
That's right.
Well,
the whole reason for trying to put something like this together is the fact that over 62% of Black men have experienced a traumatic event in their lifetime. And so I think it's very important for us as Black men to find a safe space where we can be vulnerable, because it's crucial. It's crucial to our health. And if we want to continue to be strong men, we have to get the tools to be that. We can't just be told you are strong because you're Black and you're a man. You have to get the tools. You have to be in spaces where you can be broken and be put back together the way you need to be put back together. And so I think that's very essential.
Oh, amen. That was so good. Well, thank you for being here today. I appreciate you and love you so much. And to the audience, thank you for being here. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.